We begin tonight by considering our region's most valuable natural resource, which of course is water. More than 100 advocates for the Great Lakes have been in Washington, D.C. this week, lobbying Congress to continue its bipartisan support on issues including pollution cleanup and drinking water protection. But that's not all they're talking about. Great Lakes Today reporter Elizabeth Miller is here to tell us more about Great Lakes Day and some of the other stories happening on the beat this week. Welcome back to Ideas.
Thanks for having me.
I'm not sure everybody knows there is a Great Lakes Day. Who's a part of this? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so Great Lakes Day isn't just one day. It's 2 days. It's Thursday, today, and yesterday, Wednesday. And so you've got about over 100 Great Lakes advocates. We're talking about conservation groups, environmental groups, business groups, water groups, even the new Toledo mayor is there. And so they're all talking about issues that are important to us here in the Great Lakes. And so for the last couple of years, it's really been about making sure Great Lakes Restoration Funded is restored fully to $300 million annually. And so this year in Trump's latest budget proposal, he slashes that number down to 10 million. And so there are those advocates over in DC trying to get Congress to fulfill that funding and to get it back to 300 and also do it in a bipartisan way. And the Healing Our Waters Great Lakes Coalition, which sends all these groups there, they also have a list of priorities that they're bringing to Congress. So they're not just asking for money, they're asking for protection against invasive species and money to invest in water infrastructure and strengthening conservation programs in the Farm Bill. And I talked to a couple of people already there in DC, and they say that Congress has been really receptive. One woman I spoke with who's part of a Toledo group called the Junction Coalition, she highlighted Representative Bob Gibbs over in Northeast Ohio and said he's been really helpful and really interested and attentive in helping Great Lakes issues. And something that she's going to do with the Junction Coalition is go back to Toledo in a couple weeks, or go back to Toledo today, and then in a couple of weeks hold a meeting and explain what they learned there. So bring it back home. So not just talk to Congress about it, but go back to the folks at home and explain what the Farm Bill is, explain what the Great Lakes Restoration is, and just kind of understand what's going on.
A lot of the issues you talked about there, you didn't mention algal blooms, which I know the US EPA yesterday did take action on that. What do they do and what's the response been?
Yeah, so this plan just came out yesterday, as you said, and it's this Lake Erie Domestic Action Plan, which is just a really long way to say this is how we're going to fight algal blooms. And so the plan has two main components. It's got a summary of the work states around Lake Erie are doing, and that's states including Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, actually just those four. And then the other part is what federal agencies are doing to try and solve this problem. And so this report is over 100 pages and details things like the plan to create permanent wetlands in western Lake Erie to model how wetlands can filter phosphorus. Another thing in the plan is to research Cladophora, which we don't really hear about much, but it's a type of green algae found in Lake Erie's eastern basin, so over by New York. This is all part of an agreement between the U.S. and Canada. It's called the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. And so this plan is to reduce phosphorus, which is the main cause of algae blooms, to reduce that phosphorus by 40% by 2025. And most of the response to this plan has been okay. A lot of people have said, yes, this is great, but it's not enough. Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur released a statement, environmental groups released a statement, and then I talked to Gail Hess yesterday. She's with the National Wildlife Federation, and she says the final plan is an improvement on an earlier draft, but there's still something missing.
In terms of what's missing, the NGO community, I believe, is looking for a bit more in terms of accountability. And what I mean by that is, how do we answer the what-if questions? The what if we don't hit those benchmarks and targets? And what if the projections don't hold up for what we expect them to be? What are the contingencies for what we need to do differently?
And then Tuesday, the U.S. Water Alliance released a report on water quality.
Yeah, so this was a look at water infrastructure needs in the Great Lakes, and it pointed out different strategies that the Great Lakes region needs to do in addressing water quality, like addressing lead in water and helping struggling utilities. They also said that Ohio needs $25 billion in infrastructure investment. I talked to Crystal Davis from the Alliance for the Great Lakes, and she said that we can have Great Lakes restoration and drinking water infrastructure money.
There should be. I know that may come at the expense of other programs, but it's time to prioritize what is important to the greatest amount of people. And when you talk about water, it's worth the investment. This is a growing issue. It's affecting our youth. It's affecting our senior citizens and every segment of the population. And so it should be a priority.
She's right. It does affect each and every one of us. Liz Miller, thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks.